Thank you. Maybe we'll have a problem because I have to do 3 things at the same time. Speaking, slicing, with the slides, I mean. And I'm a man, so you can expect anything. Okay, let's start. So, why this talk? Because I would like to talk on the impact of the organizational change. Okay, and I would like to start from the beginning, from what was the traditional way of organizing. I don't know if it's familiar for you, this kind of organization. Can you raise your hand if you have seen something like this in your company? Not too much, okay. Oh, well, okay. So, there is a, let's say, main issue with this kind of organizations. That is the silo effect, no? You perfectly know what we are talking about. But, okay, so we are reshaping the organization, creating things like this. So, what we are doing, creating silos in a different way. I don't know if you have experimented this, but the only thing we have done is to move the silos to another position, okay? So, we previously had the silos in the value stream. Now we have the silos in the in knowledge, in enrichment, and cross-help of teams one to another. Who has experimented this in their organization when moving to Agile? Can you raise your hand? So, I mean, this is a design issue. I mean, it's an expected behavior of the system. So it was, so my first message here is, okay, you should previously think that this would happen, okay? And when you start to do this kind of transformation, you should, from the beginning, you have to start to think how to cope with this secondary effect, let's say. Okay, let's come back to the traditional way of doing things. So this is having priorities in each area with their own agenda. So there is no natural collaboration, only by organizational design. And even you don't know what is the purpose of the company. For example, you have technology, product, human resources. So seeing let's say, this map of the organization, you don't know what the company is about, okay? And for the customer, in the end, the customer has problems. The problem is the problem is moving across the company. No one is owner of the problem. The customer is, for the customer, it's your problem, okay? Don't tell me about your organization. Please stop me to go to another department to solve my problem. Okay, we have issues here, okay? So what is let's say, the normal way in this kind, when you have this expected behavior of the organization, what is the normal way of fixing this problem in the value stream? Can anyone tell me how do they manage to solve this? No? With something like this? Project managers, okay? So, but in the end, the project managers, in some cases, they are no one compared with the senior management. So, because the senior managers have a lot of power, so it don't work very well. So, the next step is creating the PMO. So, you have the full traditional structure in the company. Okay, so management and more management. So you need a lot of things, a lot of people for coordinating, okay? And another interesting behavior that happens is when each area has their own budget. That maybe for you is normal, okay? But if each area has their own budget, it's even worse, because this doesn't encourage cross-collaboration? Why do I have to, let's say, use my money to help you? Okay? So, having seen this, the first, there's a conclusion in this part that is, we should not do the same in our agile organization. Okay? What could be something similar to doing the same? For example, that putting incentives at each team based on the outcome or on the, let's say, benefit that they are able to produce in the market. Because the brain of these people, of each team, start to narrow to their goal, that is making money for themselves. So you are not, let's say, creating a space of natural collaboration. You are de-incentivizing this cross-help. Okay. So, having seen this, why we are creating this change in the organization? Because we want a meaningful organization, a place where anyone knows what are the impact of his job. Okay. So, and ideally, it would be our best dream is to map our strategy in terms of business to the company structure. Okay, this is a big change. It's a big change. I will talk later on how to achieve to this point. So, and the idea behind this is creating something like value centers. Okay, so groups of people, maybe with agile teams inside, or whatever is needed, whatever profile is needed to be autonomous in order to define the problem, taking decisions very fast, be flexible, changing the path, having ownership on when to deliver the architectural decisions and all this stuff, okay? So what are the side effects? I have started to talk on the side effects of doing this, that is creating silos, because in these areas, in these even value centers, because we are consciously working on making them more autonomous. So we will need to consciously making effort in create some kind of synergies between them, okay? So we have already seen when we do this kind of transformation, we expect this behavior, okay? And we have also another, let's say, impediment to do this kind of changes, okay? And this one, that we want them to be, let's say, autonomous, making architectural decisions and all this stuff. But what we have maybe is a mess in our architecture, in our code base. Maybe some of you are familiar with this situation. Have any of you seen this problem? Okay, I want to have independent teams, autonomous teams, but we don't have architecture. There is a lot of spaghetti code. Okay, so what things you can do here? I will talk on organizational changes and technological changes that must be done at the same time, or should be done at the same time. It depends on the context. In terms of organization, one thing that is working for us, at least, is doing something like this. So, I suppose you are familiarized with the concept of the customer journey. So in each part of the customer journey, we create teams, okay, or we create value centers, still not value centers, but teams that are, let's say, responsible or shaping these domain areas, shaping the architecture, create microservices and all this stuff. So the architecture starts to emerge from these teams, okay? And they feel ownership also on this part of the system, so they start to behave differently. And we use Agile Portfolio Management to create alignment for the initiatives that are across these teams. And we have also another thing we have to do is starting to create the real value centers, because having teams working in the customer journey, it doesn't. This still doesn't speak the language of the business, okay? Because the business talks in terms of market expansion, customer conversion, and so. So we should start to create these teams as soon as possible, okay? That are able to, let's say, improve the KPIs, let's say, regarding this strategy. And these teams also, we have to design this with a strategic view. I mean, these teams will be stable maybe for years, okay? So we are not creating teams let's say, every 2-3 months and destroy the teams. For us, teams are the organizational unit for doing things. The last thing we will do is to break teams to create other teams. Okay, we can do it. For sure if it's extremely neat, but this is not the normal way of working. Okay, and in parallel, we will do, in order to make this successful, we need to do some technological improvements, if you want, or even challenges for someone. Because we will face two situations. One is several teams, even from different value centers, and so will touch in the end the same components, okay? The same components that these teams that are domain-oriented are touching at this moment. And we need to avoid siloed technical decisions, okay? So for the first thing, we already know what we have: test automation, internal open source, and if needed, the figure of component guardians. That was very, very well explained on the work of Craig Larman and Bas Bode. But all these options are if you need it. Okay, it depends a lot on the content, on the context. For example, in the case of the component guardians, they can be this role can be in 1, 2, 3 people inside a team that is, let's say, domain area oriented. So one part of the customer journey. Okay, and how to avoid these silo decisions. What is real is that people only feel part of a team of a group if they work together. Okay, only coordinating, only coordinating tasks and doing things like this will not make feel part of a bigger system. Okay, so here the idea is to make them think together. That in the end, for me at least, it's one of the key elements of Agile, making people think together in order to get the best solution. Okay, combining the different expertises, points of view. Okay, so which kind of joint activities they can do? For example, technical workshops on the strategy, implementation of proof of concepts, communities of practice for sure. Okay, an interesting thing in order to share the global purpose we have is still don't take the picture because it's not finished. There are a final sentence that is great. So an important thing here is to share the purpose, because if not, everyone is looking only to their own outcome. Okay, so it's good to know that there are other things happening and they can in some way even influence, participate, whatever, okay? And even more important than this is have a lot of celebrations, social activities. You know, alcohol makes a great moments in the company. Okay, now is the moment of the picture. Sorry, please. Okay, so another idea I would like you to think on is the topic of corporate business agility. I don't know if you, how many people here are from a corporation? I mean, maybe more than 300,000 of people. Raise your hands. Oof, a lot of people. Okay, so if we talk on corporate business agility, the first thing that comes to my mind is this. So, why? A corporation is not instantly created. I mean, it's a lot of years to create a corporation, maybe with thousands of people. So, if you are told to change the corporation, how many years? They needed maybe 50 years to be created. Okay, so how long will it take you? Another interesting thing with corporations is this one. It happened to me, in fact. That you have your ideas on how to do things, and suddenly maybe the strategy changes, the high-level management changes. So there are changes that are faster than your speed of transformation because the corporation is huge, and the changes are in a time frame that are, let's say, shorter, okay? That your need of time for transformation. And also, there are things like this in the corporation. Okay, that tell. I have been kidnapped twice by this kind of people in a room, telling me directly to my eyes, you cannot be done this here because it cannot be done here. This cannot be done here. Okay. So I would like to credit this sentence or this idea to one of our agile coaches, that is Nino. Because what is behind this is if you are not in this situation, okay? If you are, let's say, growing from a startup to a bigger company, okay? I have seen a lot of people talking here, we are growing, we are hiring people and all this stuff, okay? Great, perfect. But every time you hear something like this cannot be done here, you are starting to be a corporation. So take this into account. So if you try to do this kind of change on a big corporation in 2-3 years, there will happen some things. The first one thing that can happen is this one. It's happened to me. So I don't recommend you to be in this situation. Maybe you will not create impact. And one interesting thing these days is that millennials will leave. Millennials will leave because they are people that want, let's say, to grow in very fast in their capabilities, to socialize, that live in a very, let's say, very fast world. I mean, or with all things are digital or things are fast, and so they lose. They think they are lose their time when they see that the changes in the organization are too slow. Okay. So there is still hope. So first idea here is I am talking on the adjective, not on the agile with a capital letter. So, in the company, not in all places you need to be agile. There are parts that need to be more agile, okay, in the market, and the others are not so important, okay. And sometimes there are companies that have demonstrated that they can be agile. And agile, with a capital letter here, for me, means making people think together, empowering people to make decisions, reflecting, adapting on all this stuff, okay? And there is hope because there are also people like this in your company. So you have to find them. So if we come back and we take all these ideas, for me, the only way to deal with a transformation of a big company is not scaling. You have to escape from the word scaling. Every time you see something, scaling and agile is like, the things that you cannot mix in some way. You are not scaling. You have to try to be as much the scale as much, let's say, small as possible inside the company in order to make decisions. Okay. So you have to group people on business strategic lines, and in this way you start to dismantle the elephant. Okay, so creating units that are able to be faster than the whole monster. And maybe there is a limit for these areas. So 80 people, 150, but as small as possible. Because the transformation there is fast. This is an important thing also. Not only these value centers are fast, but the transformation to get them to a good point is faster. Okay, so and you can even create their own way of working. Okay, so outcomes based instead of running projects. You can create their own culture in this space that is smaller. You know that if you can change the roles inside this area. So introducing the idea of product owners, scrum masters, reducing the hierarchy and all this stuff, the culture will change dramatically, very fast. There is a problem here. And one interesting thing is that as the system to change is smaller, it's clearer to see what are the responsibilities of every value center, of every area, of every team, what is not working, what are you lacking. And this way of creating things in the organization is also scalable in terms of business needs. If you have a new, let's say, a new strategic line, the only thing you have to do is to create a new value center, okay? So in the end, you have the organization speaking the business strategy. You can see how is the organization, and you can say, okay, the purpose of this company is this one, okay? How to deconstruct the elephant? So I have already told that the first point is to look for the areas that need this business agility. The second point is to find the right people to start with. To assess if it is the best moment for them, because sometimes it's not the best moment to do a change, despite they want, okay? And for the first steps of transformation in a company, you need to have success. That is very important, because if not, you will burn the trait, the agile name. Okay. So what we are creating here is a funnel. It's a funnel for selecting who is the first, the second, the third, and so. And so you put the energy where it's needed, and you have chances of success, because you don't have an infinite amount of energy for doing changes. Okay, so as we have seen, we are trying to avoid the people that at this moment are not ready. Maybe in the future they will be ready after touching what this implies, what is agile, and all this stuff. But maybe it's not their moment, and it's good. I mean, it's correct. People that need to see what this implies, how the feature could be. Okay, when we are starting to do this, we need winning horses, not kamikazes. Okay, so it's very important to select who will be the first groups to transform. And by the way, this is very, very easy to see. I mean, if you are in the right position in the company, this exercise is very easy to do. This is an Excel with 4 columns with this criteria, and in the left, you have the name of the strategic lines. And all people in the company knows who are the right people to start with, and all people know who needs more business agility. So it's very easy to do. You only need to be in the right position to get this information. And the more important thing is that we are not introducing things like Lean Startup, Scrum, XP, Software Scrum, and DevOps. No, we are not doing this. In our transformation, we are looking for the mindset change, okay, and solving problems. What is our first problem to achieve our vision? As a company, as a unit, as whatever. So we are ordering these problems, we are solving the problems by order, and we have a tool set that can help, or maybe we need to get things from other places, okay? So in the end, this is like the Agile Manifesto. It's coming back again to why we are doing things here. The next paragraph, maybe will dislike some of you, but it's the reality. You need sponsors. You are solving problems for the big bosses, and this is the reality. And this is good. Why? Because we need to create several forces in order to create the change. There are forces that are by the people in the trenches, but you also need the forces of alignment and the power for doing, let's say, more difficult things, and the power is on the top. Okay? So, if you have these people with you, they will push for the change. This is a horrible word. Okay? It's a horrible word, but this is the reality, because the rest of the people will pull the change. Okay? Explaining the story. Okay? Only, let's say, having lunch with other people, having coffees and all this by themselves, and even telling them directly, please talk with the rest of the product owners and explain, all the project managers, and explain why you are so happy. And you start to create traction in the company. Okay? So this way of working create the changes that are sustainable, because they are sustained by the people who are participating in the training, in the trenches, the people that, let's say, will make the change successful. You have chosen the right people because they will be these people who will make the change successful. That is very important. And with the alignment for the managers, because in fact the managers maybe they don't know the details. They are not interested in this. But you are solving their problems. Okay? Another idea here. The shadow, it's the concept of the shadow of the culture. What happened is, I mean, this is ideal. So you have the senior management pushing, people in the trenches pulling for the change, but things get broken in the middle a lot of times. You have the middle managers, some middle managers that let this way of working and thinking go across the company, and other people that, let's say, have their own space and create their own culture, so they break the transformation initiative. Okay. So, what we can do with these people? An important thing is to make clear what are the responsibilities of management here. So, I don't know. I will not ask how many managers are here. I suppose there are managers. And I will tell something that maybe are interesting. So, if all of you were managers, I will ask if your life is more or less like this. So you, in a traditional way of working, you need a lot of time, you dedicate a lot of time for operative stuff. Okay, but if you reshape the organization, you end up with self-organized teams that concentrate on the operative decisions, okay? And in fact, you are fighting for having them making decisions, empowering them, giving the needed skills, training them, mentoring them, okay? So in the end, what you would, as a manager, this should be your time dedication, okay? And only going to the operative things for removing big impediments on the value chain. So, I'm talking on culture, strategy, and all these things. And the message here is that the manager is not responsible of creating a strategy, but responsible of the existence of an strategy. And the existence of the strategy is made with his or her people. That is very important. The word here, inclusiveness. And dedicating a lot of time. This will need a lot of time. And another important thing for the manager to understand what is happening is to be closer to the trenches. This is why it's very good, to reduce the hierarchy in the organization, because in this way the communication channels are almost direct. And we are also working for having anyone being able to talk with anyone in any position. So, how to do this change? Because it seems okay, this is the vision. How to achieve this vision? So we have to grow our people, our managers, okay, on these topics. One thing is working a lot, very well, is the feedback. It's the words, creating awareness on regarding these values, this model of working, how their people is seeing them. Because it's the first time that they are seeing these things written. Okay, this is the thing that my people think I have to improve. Okay, and maybe there are suggestions. So I need to do a change. Okay, and we need also to open their brains with new pieces of knowledge, of understanding the systems. Okay, so for example, we are doing micro trainings. Okay, 1 hour micro trainings on specific topics that are important right at this moment. We are not putting people to have, and even senior managers, to have 2 days trainings on things like this. That doesn't work. It's a lot of information. They will not act on this. So identify what is your main problem, do a micro training on this, work with them, and work with them in group workshops. That is important. Because, so in this way, they are explaining how they behave, and you you will identify who leads, you will identify who is still not aligned, they will identify between themselves who is on the wave of the change and who is not. So this produces very interesting effects. You can do this with listening, making them putting them together with talks, with simulations, taking them to have visits to other companies that are working in this way, having them chat on this, okay? And coaching on their behaviors. So telling them, okay, maybe you should do things differently, there are other options. So a part of growing them, that is on a basic thing, that is cultural fit. So no surprises on this. Be clear, very clear on what are the let's say non-allowed behaviors in the company. For example, one of our core values that is not written is humbleness. So if you're not a humble person, the system will rid off of you. So humbleness implies to listening to people, and you can be assertive for sure. You can be direct on your ideas, but you have to listen to people, to consider options, okay, and to think that maybe you have not the last word because you are not the person that knows more on this, and you have no fear to test that, to let your people test things, okay? And you have to explain this when someone enters to your company. Humbleness for us is very important. If you are not a humble person, you will not survive here, okay? So this is the second part. As we have seen, because of the shadow of the culture, that there are people in the end that will not be able to work in this way. And we will work a lot with these people, but we don't have infinite time for doing these things, okay? And maybe these people will be happier in other places. They will be happier in other places, we will be happier in other places. So, this is the solution for some people. Agile is not for all people. This is a reality, no problem. They will be happy in other places. And another thing that usually happens is this, is that we need a new kind of leadership, and having, let's say, the desire to behave and to lead in some way is not enough. There are people that maybe were good, let's say, moving the pieces, okay? What is the problem in the value chain? So I will move things to other places, and okay, or maybe I will make the projects move or whatever. But when we are talking on leading, growing people, taking care of people, helping people to set a strategy, making things done, not all people are able to do by nature to do this, or to learn to do this. There are limits on this. So sometimes you have to make tough decisions also, difficult decisions. You have to be grateful with these people because they maybe worked until this moment, but now people need leadership. People need a vision that is important for them, and people need that the management take care of them. So not all people is able to do, not all managers are able to do this. So as a recap, what things I would like you to remember on all this speech. First one is you cannot change the elephant at the whole instantly. So there are no options. So you have to select where it makes sense to make the change. You have to start with the right people, at least in the beginning, and you need a very different kind of leadership that is able to make things happen collaboratively. In the end, we are talking on people, people, people. The people who do the work in the trenches and the people who leads the change and the people who leads the people who lead, let's say, the organization. And leading is not following a person. Leading is following an idea, a vision. That is very different. Okay? So, questions? That's all.
Hi, Javier. Thanks for the talk. How important are horizontal organizational change initiatives? You know, like agile offices or network of change agents and these kinds of horizontal organizational changes structures.
Okay. There are, I would say, 3 or 4, 5 important things a part of this. So, one is the leadership of the transformation. So, senior management, one person in the senior management that is able to reshape, to make the senior management, to create the space for other senior managers to allow these things to happen. So you need leadership at a high level. You need expertise. You need coaches. Coaches is definitely the best way to make things happen. I don't believe in trainings and things like this. Today's trainings and okay, do whatever you can do. I believe in more in okay, what is the problem we have right now? Let's fix it using maybe the agile lean tools. Okay, so micro trainings followed by deep coaching. And so coachings are basic for this transformation. And one important thing is having people from business inside the transformation as the main drivers. Because in fact, this is for the business. And for us, there is no any more distinction between business and IT or things like this. If you remember at the beginning, there were silos, business, product, human resources. We don't have this anymore. In Mango Line, for example, there is no distinction on what is, if you are from business, if you are from IT, if you are from human resources. No. I mean, we have cells, we have value centers, and this is the way. So we are the same. Each one has his own specialization and tries to make the other people conscious of this knowledge.
Hi. What is the most important thing to achieve mindset change?
The more important thing, I think you should in some way have this in your company. I mean, your company should be based in some values, not the written values in the walls, but in reality, you should behave in a normal way with some basic values that all the world shares, and that you know the values by speaking and by saying behaviors. Okay, so in our case, we have senior management. In the case of retail, is no one knows the future of the retail because the digitalization started years ago, maybe in other areas, and now it's the retail who is experimenting to experiment with this. So the future is unknown. So our senior management has no fear on the future, on making changes, trying things. This is important. No future for changing the organization. We have to test things. Okay, so it's important that the senior management has an attitude for being open to the changes, and to know that they don't know all things, and to think that in their organization there are a lot of people that maybe have good ideas. So we must make these ideas emerge from the people that we have, because we don't have anything else that our people, anything else. So we have to make all people to say what they think, what are the ideas. There is not other people. So this mindset and this openness, let's say, should be in the company. And in our case of middle management, a very kind middle management. I have never seen this kind of middle management. So they are extremely eager to earn, to learn, to improve. So we were lucky.
Thanks for the talk. And following up with the initiatives question, in every agile environment, let's say in every company, you have a lot of initiatives going on, which somehow they end up building or reaching the vision of the company somehow.
The vision.
I would like your view on this aspect of the initiatives. How would you see the initiatives coming from everywhere? Let's say a product owner having an initiative which is related to development, a tester having an initiative related to stakeholders, and so on and so forth. Do you think you're losing the focus, or is it okay for you?
Okay, good point. What happens is, as in any...
And how would you deal with that if you're losing the focus?
Okay. What happened is that, I mean, as in every big company, on every company that has been working for a lot of years, usually the vision, the strategy, the big vision, the big strategy comes from the senior management. It's normal, okay? So the other people, let's say, implements and maybe, let's say, make some adaptations to the general idea, okay? Now that it's understood that we are in a big change in the retail, the more curious things for me is that the expectations of the senior management have changed a lot. They are expecting the product owners to bring ideas, new ideas on what to do. So it's the opposite. So the pressure, let's say, the pressure is now in the teams. Because if the product owners have to, let's say, bring ideas to the business, they have to collaborate, to take the ideas also from the teams, okay? So we are in this moment, okay? And the main issue for us is to grow the product owners. Why? Because it is not enough to have product owners that, let's say, write user stories or prepare backlogs or epics or whatever, or participate even in the portfolio management. No, we need them to be experts in retail, omni-channel, user focus and focus groups, all this stuff, going to see real clients. So it's a big challenge because the responsibility is for all people at this moment. And we are working a lot of this, and it will take time.
Alrighty, we'll take more questions through the commenting, and I'd like to thank Xavier for giving us this talk. Big round of applause. Thank you very, very much.